This is lesson 8 from unit 2 on finding equations of quadratic relations. So far in this unit, we've looked at parabolas, we've looked at transformations of those parabolas, and in the last lesson, we learned how to graph those parabolas using the step method. So this note will focus on how to find those equations. So given points, given graphs, how we can actually find those equations. So in order to find the equation of a quadratic relation, we are going to use the vertex, which you should remember is HK. So we're going to use that vertex and any other point to find A. The vertical stretch or compression. Okay, so we're going to use the vertex and any other point on that parabola to figure out A, which we know is going to represent that vertical stretch or compression. Once we've done that, we're going to write the relation in vertex form, which we should know is y equals ax minus h squared plus k. And we're going to write it in that form using that vertex, right? Because the vertex is hk, as well as that value of a that we are going to solve for. So this is a fairly short note. We're just going to do 3 quick examples. Okay, so looking at A here, it says write an equation for each of the relations in vertex form. So all we're going to do is follow those 2 steps, very simple 2 steps. So the first thing is to use the vertex and any other point to find A. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to write out my vertex. Remember, your vertex is your lowest or your highest point. So in this case, my vertex, I'm going to try to draw a dot, is right here. Okay, so my vertex then is, remember, x coordinate first, so -1, y coordinate 2. So -1, 2. So that's the first piece of information we need. The other is just a point. So any old point on this parabola. It doesn't matter which one you choose. Just try to choose one with nice whole numbers. You also want to choose one that crosses right at one of those grid points. So for me, the first one I kind of see is this point here. And this point, again, x coordinate 1, y coordinate 6. So that point is 1, 6. Okay, so that's going to be your first step, is to actually write out your vertex and a point. Your second step here is going to be to label those points. So we know our vertex is hk, right? So -1 is h and 2 is k. So we already have that information. Okay, the other information we have is a point. Well, any point has an x and a y coordinate. So we can say x is 1, y is 6. So knowing that information, we're going to be able to solve for A. Okay, so notice how we don't have an A value there, right? But we do have a value for everything else. So what we're going to do is we're going to fill in our vertex form with the information we have. So our vertex form was y equals, and this is always the same form, ax minus h squared plus k. Okay, so now I'm going to fill in the information I have given that vertex and the point. So I know that y is 6, and this is just substitution, right? We are subbing in these values on the left. The -1 is h, 2 is k, 1 is x, 6 is y. And we're just replacing those variables. So a we don't have anything for, so I'm going to leave it as the variable a. We know that x is 1 minus h, which is -1, so minus -1 squared plus 2, right? Our k value is 2. Once we have this information, what we're doing is we're solving for a. So I'm going to say, so step 1 is actually coming up with these points. Okay, 2 is going to be substitution. Okay, so substitute. Once we've substituted, we are going to solve for A. Okay, so step 1, write out the vertex and a point. Step 2, substitute in those values. Step 3, solve for A. So we're going to continue doing that. Okay, so remember, to solve for something, that means to completely isolate it. So we're going to use BEDMAS to do this first, right? So 6 is all by itself, so we're going to leave that. 1 minus negative 1 is the same as 1 plus 1, right? That double negative will turn into a positive. So that's 2 squared, which is 4, right? Plus 2. Okay, my goal is to get A all by itself. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of this positive 2 by moving it over my equal sign. Okay? When I move it over my equal sign, it's going to become subtraction. So I have 6 minus 2 equals 4A, right? A times 4 is just going to be 4A. So now 6 minus 2 is 4. Oops. 4 equals 4A. But you'll remember me saying from those solving videos, I don't care about 4A. I need to know what one single A is. So we're going to use opposite operation. So the opposite of multiplication here will be division, right? That will have these cancel out because 4 divided by 4 is just 1. And over here we have 4 divided by 4. So we have, and I'm just going to come over here so I have enough room for the other one, 1 equals A. Okay, now that we've solved for A, our last step, as it said above here, is just to write the relation in vertex form using that vertex and the value of A. So all we have to do is write out our equation with A, H, and K in it. So I'll just choose another color. So our equation of this parabola is y equals, our A value is 1, our H value was negative 1, so that's going to appear as positive 1 squared, and our K value is 2. And just like that, I have the equation of that graph here of that parabola. Okay, so let's do another example in the exact same way. So again, the first step was to write out the vertex and a point on the line. And I'm just going to do it over on this side. So our vertex here, remember, highest or lowest point. In this case, it's the highest point, right? So our vertex is right here. So that is 1, negative 4. So 1, negative 4. Come on. There we go. And we need a point on that line. So again, it doesn't really matter which one you choose. The first one I see that makes sense is this point here. But again, if you chose to use a different point, say this point or this point, it doesn't matter as long as they're whole numbers, because it's going to make it a lot easier for you. So the coordinate of this point is 0, 6, or sorry, 0, negative 6. Okay, so that was step 1. Okay, step 2 is going to be that substitution. Or sorry, we should label those first. So again, remember our vertex is always HK and our coordinate is always XY. Once I've labeled those, it's going to make it easier for me to sub those into my general equation. And I'm not going to rewrite the equation because on your page you'll be able to see it, right? We wrote it right beside the question up here. So my Y value is negative 6. My A value I don't have. It's what I'm solving for. My X is 0. My H is 1. So again, remember that's going to appear opposite. So minus 1 squared, and my K is negative 4. And K is not going to appear opposite. It's going to appear exactly as it is. Okay, next step. So that's step 2 is that substitution. Step 3 is to actually solve. Okay, so we're solving for A. So in order to do that, again, I'm going to simplify using BEDMAS. 0 minus 1 is negative 1, right? Squared minus 4. So negative 6 equals Negative 1 squared is just 1 minus 4. Okay, when I bring that over, it's going to become positive. So I have negative 6 plus 4 equals 1a. Okay, and negative 6 plus 4 is negative 2. Okay, because it's just 1a, that's all we care about. We don't need to do any division. Okay, so we've solved for a. Our fourth step is just to write out that equation. Okay, with h, k, and a. Remember, you're not going to include x and y in this one. So it's just going to be y equals negative 2 x minus 1 squared minus 4. Okay, and we have, again, the a value in there, the h value, and the k value. Okay, and I get that from my vertex and from what I solved for. Okay, so one last example here. So this example, we aren't given a graph, but we are given the vertex and a point that we pass through. So that's all we need, right? Remember, step 1 was just to write out the vertex and any point. So we're going to jump right into step 2. So step 2 is just that substitution. So again, you might want to label. So h, k, x, y. And then you can just substitute those points into your equation. So y is 2. So 2 equals, remember you have to have that a in there because that's what you're going to be solving for. X minus 4, again, that has to be that opposite sign, minus 2. Whoops, and I forgot to sub in for x. So we know x, right? We can't solve unless we only have one variable. And x in this case was 0. There we go. So now we just have that single variable, and that's what we're going for, right? Because we can't solve for something if we have multiple variables. So again, I'm going to simplify this using BEDMAS, which means I'm going to do my brackets first. 0 minus 4 is negative 4. Okay, then I need to do my exponents. Negative 4 squared is 16, and minus 2. So just to make this even more clear, don't do 16 minus 2, right? Because that's not following BEDMAS. Technically, you have 16 times a before you would subtract the 2, okay? But just remember that we're moving that negative 2 over that equal sign, which means it will change signs, right? It was negative on the right-hand side, so when it goes to the left, it's going to become positive, and 16 times a is just simply 16a. So we have 4 equals 16a, but remember, I don't care about 16a, right? I need to know how much 1a is worth, so I need to divide by whatever is beside a. In this case, it's 16. Once I do that division, 16 divided by 16 is just 1, so we can cancel those out. Whatever I do to one side, I have to do to the other. So I also need to divide on my left-hand side. Okay, 4 divided by 16, if you do that on your calculator, you're going to get a decimal. Okay, so that's fine. You could leave it as a decimal, or you can leave it as a fraction. Specifically, what we want to do is we want to put this in lowest terms, right? So we can type that in on our calculator, and we will see that, I'll just go over here, 4 divided by 16 is the same as 1/4, right? If I divide, I'll use a different color. If I divide 4 by 4 and 16 by 4, 4 divided by 4 is 1, and 16 divided by 4, which I guess I shouldn't have written it like that because it's not, it should go the other way, right? It should be 4 needs to be divided by 4, and 16 needs to be divided by 4, not the other way around. Okay, 4 divided by 4 gives you that 1. 16 divided by 4 will give you 4. So 1/4 is equal to a. Just because this is a fraction, it doesn't change anything, right? All we have to do is we have to replace a with 1/4. Or if you turn that into a percent, 0.25. Okay, so again, our last step, we need to write out that full equation. with our A, H, and K. So y equals 1/4. And remember, it's substitution, so it's not 1/4 A, it's just 1/4. Okay, you replace A with 1/4. X, our H value is 4, so it's going to appear as -4. It's always squared, and our K value is -2. So again, we have our A, our H, and our K. And we have completely finished. We've figured out what the equation would be if we had a vertex at 4, -2, and we passed through the point 0, 2. Okay, so this is how you find equations of these quadratic relations.